evening. Welcome to your night before news video for your third maths exam. This is a video for anyone doing higher paper 3 tomorrow morning, so just make sure you are watching the right video. And we're just going to go through some last minute tips and revision advice for your last minute revision this evening before that paper tomorrow morning. Now, obviously this is the final paper, which means that we've done paper 1, we've done paper 2, and we can think about what has not come up yet. In terms of the content that we're required to cover for GCSE, what haven't we seen? What high frequency topics have not come up yet? Because if we know that they're extremely common examined GCSE topics and we haven't seen them yet, we can probably expect to see them in that paper 3 tomorrow morning. And we can consider whether we think topics that we've already had in the papers, if there's a high chance, high likelihood that those things might come up again. So we can kind of split this into high priority topics to revise. So things that haven't come up yet that are high frequency, I would put that onto some sort of shortlist for you tonight to do some revision on those topics. But we do have this disclaimer. Obviously we haven't seen the papers and we can't see into the future, unfortunately. So this is not a guarantee. If I say these are high frequency topics that haven't come up yet, it's not 100% they are definitely going to be in that paper tomorrow. So we're not examiners, we don't know what will be in the paper, but what we have done is we have used this idea of high frequency topics, which we've got from analysing past exam series against the paper 1 and paper 2 that you've just sat to create the sort of best guess for our revision, for your sort of revision hit list for this evening. So these topics would be Pythagoras. You have had a little bit of triangle work in some of the papers so far. We haven't really just had like a plain Pythagoras question, or maybe using Pythagoras twice or within a different problem to solve. Compound interest is one of the highest frequency topics, and we just haven't had a question like it yet. So sort of that repeated percentage change. Cumulative frequency, again, extremely common to come up in the exams, but it wasn't in paper 1 or in paper 2. Product rule for counting, so those types of questions where you need to work out how many different ways of doing something there are. Again, extremely high priority, hasn't been in the papers yet. Usually lends itself to being more calculator if the numbers are larger, so might well be something in there tomorrow morning. You've got proportion, so your equations of proportion, direct proportion, inverse proportion is a high frequency topic and you haven't had a question on it yet. Functions, that could be substituting in, it could be solving, it could be composite functions, it could be inverse functions, extremely high priority, we've not really had anything from that yet. Bounds, so very typically calculator, so it could be error interval, but it could also be calculating the upper bound or something, or the lower bound. You've got that really classic question where it might say by considering bounds, and you have to find the upper bound and the lower bound and see what they round to. Or it could be like an easier bounds question where they just say here's a formula, here's some values that have been rounded, find the upper bound of this. Very, very common in the exams, and we've not had it yet, so likely for tomorrow morning. Recurring decimals to fractions, you're not helped having a calculator. It's a really common topic. It wasn't in paper 1, it wasn't in paper 2. There is a chance it could be in there tomorrow. It tends to be a topic that, as a group of students that do higher here, you are good at, but just make sure you're using that sort of recurring notation when you're doing your working out, because we learned in last year's GCSE that lost a lot of people marks for this question. And then just some more further trig. Trig has cropped up around here and there, but further trig, cosine rule, sine rule, maybe area of a triangle where we don't have perpendicular height, that could well be in there tomorrow. Beyond that then, I've just created a list of likely topics. So this does include topics that have been in either paper 1 or 2, because we know that there are sort of topic repeaters in some of these exam series that just come up repeatedly. So more index laws, something to do with maybe an equation with index laws, because we haven't really had one of those yet. In paper 1 there was that nice evaluate the indices question with your negative and your fractional indices, but what about forming an equation using index rules and solving? We haven't had anything like that yet. We have had percentages, but I think on top of the fact that you might see a repeated percentage question. Percentages is like a huge strand in maths, and I think there's a chance that it's a percentage change question, a reverse percentage question, something else percentagey. Quadratic inequalities hasn't come up yet, and again, not saying that it definitely would. It's less high frequency, but it's something that could well be there. So remember, if you're solving a quadratic and it's an inequality, you would need to do that sketch to decide on your inequality symbols. More transformations is a big topic and it's very common. I know that it was in paper 2, but there is every chance you could see another transformation question, and it probably wouldn't be the same type. So it might be a combined transformations, it could include invariants, and it may be something else involving transformations. More ratio, I know that there's been a lot of ratio, but it's a huge part of maths, so there's every chance there could just be some more. Any sort of, I put expanding and factorising down, but I just mean any sort of mixed algebra. I'm thinking towards the beginning of the paper, maybe like a multi-step question. You could be expanding, you could be factorising, you could be solving an equation, but yeah, anything algebra. So what could you do tonight? Well, you've got some, I would hope, some hints now, some topics that you might want to prioritise to revise. I'll start on that extremely likely list of those untested so far but high frequency topics, and then moving on to topics on that second list. You've obviously got Sparks revision, so logging in, click yourself onto revision and assessments, and then you can go by strand. So let's say that you decided from that list what you really wanted to look up was compound interest. So you're going to go to number in there, and you're going to look at try and flick through some of the questions, look at some compound interest questions. If you want to do specific topics, then again, I would still head to Sparks Maths, but I'd maybe click on the My Homework section and then go to the independent learning, in which case you can search those topics, can't you? You can search for compound interest. Exam queue, same as before, make sure you're on higher, make sure you've selected 2 and 3, because again, calculator papers are calculator papers. Doesn't matter if it's paper 3 or paper 2. And then type into your topic, and again, utilise that mark scheme option there. Maths Genie is great for specific topics, as you well know by now. Again, this is just a reminder of how to get to that part of the website, and then additionally core bit maths. So, if you want to do practice papers, you should get yourself onto Maths Genie. You will find full, past, exam, Edexcel papers there. Cannot stress enough that the exam board we use for GCSE Maths is Edexcel. Please do not try and look up OCR or AQA or any other exam board. Tomorrow morning, same as we've done for the last 2, please. We'll be doing warm-up provision in the canteen or conservatory, so for you guys it will be the canteen. But that is after you spent some time in the hub. So if you want to come in from 7 AM, there will be teachers around. You'll have your breakfast bars, you've got the computers. There'll be some sort of spare revision papers from the night before. There'll also be the opportunity for you to ask any questions, and that is the best way to maximise that time. Come in early when there's less people and the teacher to student ratio is a lot higher. And you can ask any questions that you've had from maybe the night before if you're doing revision. It's a really good opportunity. From about 8ish, maybe just past, we'll move into the conservatory canteen then, where we'll do our revision grids, our breakfast mat warm-ups. And then we'll have our liner, I should probably say 8:35 now, because that's about when we went out for our paper 2 last week. That's it then. Good luck with your last bits of revision this evening. And look forward to seeing you bright and early tomorrow morning.